different levels. There's transparent, staining, and opaque. So the best way to get started is with just the transparents and some staining, at least for me. And the thing about color is, in studying it, a lot of the palettes, they're designed for you to buy all of these paints, but the best paints are the purest pigments are very simple, and the more that they're complex they get, the more they've used other things to create those colors. So I studied about 6. There's basically 6 colors that you need to mix any color. There's no true primary. They lean one way or the other. But a good palette has maybe, what I need is 9, 12 colors to get some convenience colors in there. So I like to keep it really simple, and that way too I was able to transfer it to the color knowledge to other media. So if I know those 6 colors, I can do that in acrylics, I can do that in oils, and I cannot spend a fortune on paints and all of that time with the palette that really isn't necessary, where you're going to get better colors if you work with the pure colors and know how to mix them. So the colors that I work with here. This is a very transparent yellow. Hansa yellow is what it's called. There's also Aureolin, which is a beautiful transparent yellow. And another main color is this middle yellow, which I use an Indian yellow because it's very transparent. And that makes an excellent mix to create greens. Paint box greens are really good for tinting. They're not good for painting. So to mix, it's always best to learn about mixing green and paint and mix your own greens. So I use this and what's over here, an ultramarine blue, is one of my main mixtures to get a nice natural sap green. And then sometimes I use sap, for a convenience color. I'll actually buy a paint of sap green, a little tube of sap green. But I usually mixing those two, I can get really good greens. Going into the darker, this is Payne's Gray, which has a bluish tint. That can move it more to some of the darker greens. Then another main color that I use is it's variations of burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is the most basic of the browns. This one is a little fancy. It's a quinachrome from Daniel Smith. Beautiful brown gold that's transparent. And the other real basic mix that I use to create my own Payne's Gray is to take the ultramarine, because again, hand mixed grays are much richer than something out of a convenience color out of a tube, which is Payne's. It's a wonderful convenience color, but in order to get all different tones of gray, I start with the basic burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. We're going to need some nice gray tones in this, because the foreground has some beautiful shadows in it. The grays you can tint in a lot of different ways and really play with them in contrast, where you're doing complementary colors working against each other. So if you're painting a lot of greens and you want to put a rose tone to the grays, it enhances, they enhance each other. So So those are two of my main color mixes, and then my palette generally has this yellow, the orange, the brown, some rose and magenta, and ultramarine blue and the magenta make a beautiful purple. And then the blues really vary in their quality. A cerulean blue is a pure sky blue, but it's a very chalky color. It's not transparent. So the most basic blue to work with is cobalt. It's transparent. And with ultramarine, it's slightly staining. Those two colors you can really work with to do like a sky. If you're doing a sky and you want to lift out clouds, because you don't use white in watercolor, you don't want a staining color that you're trying to lift out. You want a transparent, so you can make the blue that you want with these. This you can lift it when it's really wet, but you know, that's just, they're very, very different, the three different blues. So the best ones to invest in are cobalt and ultramarine. I just have one green on the palette. It's the transparent one. It's Viridian green. And you can see it's not natural, but it's very nice when you mix with, to tint when you mix with other colors. My teacher used to say you need a license to paint green. So those are the basics of my palettes. I have some convenience colors on here. So to do this scene, I always start out with an interesting horizon and decide if you're going to emphasize on the foreground or the sky. In this scene, it's this foreground. The photo has a little bit too close to the middle, which would create composition tension. So it's much better if it's higher or lower, and you're already deciding on your focal point by doing that, because you'll want to be emphasizing whatever your focal point is. I'm going to raise this a little bit, because the trees and the reflection in the foreground are really the interesting parts of the painting. So it's going to have a really basic sky. So I'm going to start that by just doing a wash. And this is the bottom of my painting. I'm going to do the wash upside down to just get the clearest, simplest sky that I can get, because it will drip and I'll need to catch that. So rather having it drip on the white part of my painting, I'll just paint it upside down. In that case, since I'm not lifting, I could use the cerulean. It's very soft blue, so I'm going to move towards the cobalt and the cerulean. By accident, I just showed you a dry brush, which is a beautiful technique for when we're trying to do that foreground and get the effect of the light on the water. But in a wash, you don't want any, just a strict wash, you don't want any of that. It's a little bit white towards the top of the trees, and I'm loving that. So I'm going to try and get some of that and have it graduate, have it be softer up here. That's basic technique as to how to do a wash. That's shadow, not. I wasn't sure if that was a shadow or if that